Okay, we're live. Tanner, Zach, thank you for joining me. Um, Please introduce yourself to our potential and future listeners, who you are, what you do, and anything else you want to share.
Yeah, totally. My name is Tanner Nelson. I'm the CEO of Elevate Operations, and then Zach Lindsay is my business partner. He is the CRO for Elevate Operations. We've got one other business partner as well, but we focus pretty much exclusively on Monday.com implementation and consulting. We do a little bit of business operations consulting as well in terms of like processes, but one of the things that we love most is meeting with clients and learning how their businesses work. Zach and I especially have started several businesses together, and so for us, it's really, really interesting to get into the weeds of what people are doing and then figure out, how to build a system to make it a more effective business.
Very cool. And so the name, you're saying you're exclusively for Monday, our conference, Elevate. Is there
Kind
a
of a random
reason?
coincidence there. So we're based out of Utah here in the United States. We're in a very mountainous region, and mountains are I mean they're pretty important to us. And so we're like, when we were coming up with a name for the business, we're like, okay, well, what's something that we could use like that's mountain themed? Elevate was the thing that stood out to us, and then shortly after we formed, we realized that there is an Elevate conference. So
Which actually is coming up next month in New York, and London and Sydney. But so yeah, I love the coincidence. Um, and so, just for the listeners, I've been doing this series for a while. We have a few episodes already out, and your name also came up as one of our partners because we're trying to specialize in these conversations in different industries. Your name came up as it relates to the insurance industry. So I'd love for you guys to share why, what is your connection to that industry, and yeah, whatever you want to share.
yeah, definitely. I can share a little blurb, and then Zach, you can tack onto this. So we've found over the past few years that we've been in business that we work best with other professional services companies. And insurance extends into that because although you're not, as an insurance agent, you're not necessarily offering a service, you are offering to connect somebody with an insurance provider. And so, because of that, like the insurance agencies, insurance brokerages have a very similar workflow to a lot of other clients that we've had. And we've had quite a few clients in the insurance industry as well. And so that's kind of what led way to our insurance CRM solution.
Yeah, in
Zach,
some ways, it was
anything?
kind of a happy accident. I had some experience in the insurance industry just from past jobs and things that I had done and things, but really the main catalyst was that we had a client who was very kind of forward thinking and wanted to partner with us as we were building their insurance system. So ended up being kind of much bigger than we originally anticipated. Became this kind of whole huge solution that we then started replicating to other teams and found out that it was a good system for other people doing similar insurance stuff. So it's now expanded to other things because, as you know, there's different types of insurance. There's it's a huge industry with all different types of focuses. So we're starting to kind of adapt and try to fit the different nuances within it. But yeah, it was kind of just a happy accident that we got into that industry when we did and got all the experience that we got from it.
Right. So yeah, that actually hits like the same story that I keep hearing from others in other industries as well, because there was one partner that said that they just had like some person came with a legal thing, and then all of a sudden they become like Monday legal experts, builders. And would you say that it's accurate to say that there's kind of a word to mouth kind of thing? So once you kind of hit this new angle, maybe other people hear about it. Now you have the expertise, so it kind of grows, and all of a sudden one day you're an expert in insurance and insurance Monday for insurance.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, we,
Yeah.
we kind of joke internally that like it was never a calculated move. I mean, I think everybody has their gripes with insurance from time to time. But it's turned out to be I know more about insurance now than I ever thought I would.
Well, as a marketer, I can tell you that similar thing, right? You kind of get a job doing marketing for a specific company, and then all of a sudden you're an expert. In this case, in sales and CRMs. Um, Something that I haven't dealt with as an industry before, and now it's like part of my expertise.
Part of your day to day.
So kind of scaling back, going back a little bit, why do you even need this insurance and Monday pairing, let's say? And which, or in other words, why are they coming to you in the first place?
Yeah. Zach, you want to
Couple,
start off with that one?
yeah, there's a couple of reasons. I think it depends on the size of the organization that we're working with. There's like the small insurance brokers out there, like individual agents or just kind of a few people in their agency. And for those people, it's really that they don't really have a ton of options, depending on kind of the insurance work that they're doing. So a lot of times people are coming from more or less nothing into something, and so it's kind of a no-brainer for them. What happens to a lot of people though is a lot of the insurance carriers that a lot of these agents can provide their services for, those carriers can provide systems for them, and but then it becomes a little bit disconnected because maybe you do your services for like three different carriers and like and then you're split between all of their different systems and you don't really have one of your own. So that can become a little complicated. Or even for some of our people who just do work with one carrier, the systems are maybe just outdated or they're not very well maintained, or the broker doesn't have much control or say in what happens with that system because it's not theirs. So lots of different reasons, just depending on kind of your exact position in the market. But I'd say those are some of the most common ones we see that are issues of why someone wants to just have their own system that they can use.
Got it. And so, okay, so we know the need, and now why is Monday, in the way you see it, is the solution for these people?
I'd say the same reason it is for most people. It's just it's so highly flexible. Like we can customize it to fit any specific use case that we need. So we see a lot of differences in workflows between like people who provide individual level insurance plans to people who provide like group benefit policies and things to large companies. Like there's a little bit of a difference there. There's a little bit of difference between different types of coverages and things. And so luckily, Monday is so highly flexible that it doesn't really matter if you work with one carrier or 50 carriers, or if you provide one type of insurance coverage, or if you provide 20 different types of insurance coverage, or if you're working with individuals or groups. We can take the same core workflows that an insurance agency follows and then customize it to match their specific steps and cadences. Some people have a very simple checklist. Some people have this really complex branching workflow. But same principles stay true, and Monday's flexible enough for us to cater to each of them.
Very nice. And so you said some of them have complex structures. Can you share a story or like a use case that you've seen that was, I don't know, interesting, ridiculous, something that kind of pops into your mind when you're thinking, wow, that was something different.
Yeah, definitely. The original group that we worked with, they were kind of an ever expanding project as we continued to push the limits of their system. So it started off simple-ish and then kind of got complex. And then at one point we got to, they were wanting to automate and streamline as much of their work as possible. And so for every state in the US, there are like brochures that are specific to each carrier and each type of insurance coverage that there is. And so as a broker, when you're providing information to your clients, the insureds, you have to provide that information to them so that they're aware of all the different rules and regulations and stuff surrounding it. The issue is every state has hundreds of brochures associated with it, and there's 50 states. So at one point when they wanted us to automate this document generation, it was like, well, if they're in the state of Arizona, they need this brochure for this carrier and this carrier and this thing. And so there was a high number of combinations there. And at one point we were uploading upwards of like 4 to 5,000 brochures into a document generation tool that we were using, so that when they selected what coverage, which carrier, and which state the person was had in in Monday, and then they went to generate a proposal, it would reference this database that we had been uploading so that it could pull the appropriate brochures for the state and the coverage and the carrier. So it was intense. It was dozens and dozens of hours to
Sounds complicated,
get that
yeah.
put together.
Very cool, very cool. And so you mentioned obviously Monday, part of what we do here, the reason for this, one of the reasons for this conversation is obviously I'm wearing kind of the Monday CRM hat. And I'd love for you to tell me a little bit. I'm sure your customers probably use both, but where do you see that difference between the kind of the regular Monday platform, which we call work management, versus the CRM when it comes to your customers? What maybe you use more, or in what cases you use each?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
use
go
CRM.
ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Zach. We use CRM 10 times out of 10 with these insurance clients.
Okay, cool.
Honestly, like most of the stuff that they need to do is specifically related to client management or to contract management. So managing renewals and, open enrollment type scenarios. So for that, I mean, CRM has been a really perfect fit. And actually, we've seen some use cases where Monday service could come into play. So right now, CRM and service are a little bit more valuable to the solution than default work management.
Great. And any particular features that you're kind of more inclined of using or like using?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think there's a few.
go ahead.
I mean, as Tanner said, communication is such a huge part of what these insurance agencies are doing. So all the email functionality that you get with the CRM is preferred, especially the mass email stuff. Mass email is really great for a lot of these insurance carriers. They like to kind of have a more personal relationship with a lot of their clients, kind of maintain that personal touch. So we've seen people save like birthdays in their contacts board and then send birthday messages and emails to people. We've seen people like maybe they'll go filter their contacts board to go focus on a specific state. And when that state's having a specific state specific holiday or something, they send a mass email to everyone in that state saying, hey, I hope you're having a happy X day. So I think that allows them to do what they want to do in the system. So that's, I think, a very obvious feature. And then it even comes down to like little features, like the way that we use connected columns, like the connected columns in CRM is different than work management. And we use those pretty effectively for our people who want to reference information that may be living on another board. So yeah, as Tanner said, CRM is pretty much the only service, the only product that we use for these insurance solutions, because that's what we've built our insurance solution on. And so that's what most people are getting out of it.
Nice. And so I want to take us a step back even further. CRM is obviously relates to sales. It is the kind of the purpose for it from as kind of the core purpose of it. What would you say is like a tactic or something that people do that you don't recommend? Maybe with Monday CRM, maybe in general with CRM systems that will maybe improve their workflow if they don't do something.
And I think I see
So
a lot of people trying to consolidate too much, where they're trying to do everything in like one board, where they're like they're trying to store all their contacts and they're trying to store like the information about those contacts and when they've talked to them and everything else, and it can just be not the best way of handling things. So we've had to help a lot of people break things out a little bit and say, hey, let's have a board with a purpose. So let's have a contacts board that stores your contacts information and all of their stuff. But then let's have a leads board so that you can manage the lead process and have automations to create a contact automatically. And then a deals board to manage that. Because then what if you have a contact that goes through multiple deal cycles? Like, how are you going to do that in your current system? So I think sometimes they try to do too much in too small of a space. And so we expand it a little bit. Sometimes, ironically, it's the opposite problem where they are maybe trying to do things in too many places where they're like barely doing anything on a board and they've got like maybe a board per person. And you're like, do you really need this much information on every person? So it's like, let's consolidate this a little bit. So it's finding that kind of like middle ground, that balance, the the Goldilocks, I guess, approach of just finding that middle ground for some of our clients. Some people end up on a far end of that spectrum, and we got to kind of bring them back to the middle and teach them how to use it, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because that's also this theme that comes up, that because the first thing that you said about when I asked you why do people use it, you said the flexibility. That's the reason why people come to use Monday. But then when you give people the flexibility to do whatever they want, then you get some wacky results because they can
Yep.
pretty much build whatever comes to mind. If they don't have the knowledge, or that maybe it's a bit crazy. And so I guess that's where the services that we provide, that you guys provide, are there to kind of, mitigate, like you said, the center people back.
Yeah, no, it's something I say in almost all of our discovery calls with people is like, uh, the blessing and curse of Monday is that it's so flexible. it's it's a blessing for someone like us who knows all the options and who knows all the features and the strategies behind it. But if you're new and trying to build it yourself, it can be a little bit of a curse because you're only going to build with what you understand, and you'll probably end up building something that isn't ideal.
Yeah,
But specific to some of these insurance clients, I mean, Zach mentioned like a lot of them have their information in so many disparate systems that like it becomes overwhelming to try and shove it into one system because they're so accustomed to either having things in multiple different systems or having like multiple layers within the same system. So yeah, it can definitely be overwhelming.
yeah. So let's talk about sales for a second. I still want to kind of stay on this topic. Um, I like to say that when people learn online, read sales tips, tactics, and all that, it's usually about the actual sale, like how to cold call, how to pitch, all that. And they kind of forget that, especially nowadays, admin work is at least 50% of it. Like that's the time to log information, to reach out, to follow up, to get everybody up to speed on the team, to follow up on deals, finance, POs, what all these things. So much admin work. And so I'd just love to kind of hear your take on I don't know if you have something like a hot take, or maybe something about like the state of sales today when it comes to that side of things.
Yeah, someone who does sales for our company and who has helped build CRM systems for other companies. I think automation is a huge blessing because you're totally right. I mean, half of the sales job is just making sure that you document the right stuff and keep notes and then generate a proposal or an SOW or some contract or something else involved, and making sure you have all the right numbers and people and everything else. So luckily, our process, as well as a lot of people's processes that we've worked with, they're fairly repeatable. They have a predictable cadence, and so it's like, okay, you've done this 1,000 times. What are some of the main branches of options that we could have, and then we can automate for some of those things. So for ourselves and for some of these other clients, it's like, okay, you have a discovery call. What is the result of that discovery call? Okay, it's either this, or that. And so then we can build buttons or status-based automations or things where it's like, okay, well, if this result happens, just hit this button. For example, I'm sure we've all had discovery calls where somebody no shows, right? And so used to be, you'd like maybe make a note of it, and then you'd go email the person and be like, hey, no show, do you want to use this link to reschedule? And then maybe you set a follow-up reminder for yourself, or like, hey, I need to check in with this person to see if they want to actually reschedule. Well, instead we can just build a button that does all that. So if somebody no shows, you just say no show, sends them an email automatically, makes a reminder for you automatically, makes a note or an update for you automatically. So you've reduced 5-10 minutes worth of work and manual typing to a click of a button. And I think that's just an example of something we can do for every part of the sales process.
Yeah, and 5 to 10 minutes sounds maybe not like a lot to some people, but in the industry that we obviously are, that we operate in, 5 to 10 minutes, even each day, if that was it, just it accumulates, and we're talking about way more than just 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
If
If
you
you have
start
a
even just this use case, but you have multiple use cases for multiple situations, and
Yeah, if you've got 6 discovery calls in a day, saved yourself a potential hour if you're only saving 10 minutes on each.
Yeah.
And I think some of the things even save you more time, like some of the proposal generation stuff like SOW and contract generation. We've implemented systems that have saved people 30, 40 plus minutes per deal. And so then if they're sending 3 of those out a day, it's like you've saved them well over an hour that day. So yeah, it definitely adds up.
You know, and I think adding on to that, like the big value there isn't even so much clearing out the admin time, it's clearing out the mental clutter up here because there's so many things that you need to balance when you're in sales. Like you're managing relationships, you're trying to keep track of follow-up dates of like who's at what deal stage, what information have you already told them, what information do you need to tell them still? Like I think it goes beyond just saving a few minutes of doing the admin time. It's actually taking care of something tangible so that you don't have to worry about it anymore. And that's a huge value.
I really like this point because I think when in general when companies when managers look at tasks, it's always like, oh, I need to get on a call with this client, and if they didn't show up, I can move on to the next step. But there's always like layers of other tasks that are connected to every task that you do. And that's a big like weight on your mind when you have so many clients, and all of these have even small things that you have to do that don't seem like a lot. But just remembering 10 different tasks for each thing is it becomes a whole pain in the butt. So great point. I really love that. So we have two more questions and we'll wrap it up. Uh, these are my two favorite ones, so we kept them to the end. So a new client comes in, a potential client, they're not a client yet, maybe they just signed for you guys to work together. What is the audit process? What are you looking for? What are you looking at when you're just looking at how they operate um, at the moment before you guys started together? And how do you kind of assess the situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll keep this one somewhat agnostic of industry. So I won't necessarily tie it to the insurance one, but it's similar to, I think, everyone. So for me, I think it's first about the process, ignoring their tool or system or whatever stuff they're using. It's like, doesn't really matter if they're already using Monday or if they're not using Monday or what system. I kind of like to ignore that first and just get down to what is your business doing? What is the process? Like, what do you guys do? Who do you do it for? How do you do it? How do you make money? When do you make money? Just figuring out like really what makes the business tick. And then once I've got a good understanding of that, that's, I think, all the context you need to really jump into the system, because really a system is just meant to facilitate a process. And so in my humble opinion, understand the process first and then look at the system. And so that's exactly what I usually do is just focus on that. And then once we have that dialed in, then we'll look at the system. And then it's just about identifying the kind of what we were talking about earlier, like putting things into appropriate size boxes so that you're not doing like too much in a little space or too little in a huge space. Just make sure that the system's structured appropriately. We always like to build systems that are as simple and sustainable as possible. So I think sometimes as a builder, you can sometimes get a little overwhelmed with trying, not overwhelmed, you can sometimes go a little overboard trying to make it like fancy. And I think sometimes we have to catch ourselves and be like, no, like what this client needs is something that's just simple, sustainable, something that's scalable. So when they are using it with their team, it can just grow with them and they can keep using it for a long time.
And I would imagine that, sorry, go
Oh
ahead.
yeah, sorry, Danny. I alluded to this earlier, but the discovery part, that's the part that's so much fun for us. Like we love getting into the weeds of not necessarily like what have you built in Monday so far, but what does your business actually do? And so I mean it's kind of the two-step thing for us is first we learn about what they're doing because that's fun for us, and then we figure out how to make it better through a system.
Yeah, and I would imagine it's also good for them because a lot of times just saying out loud kind of puts things in order for them as well, and maybe even they realize that it wasn't the way they intended, or maybe different teams see things differently, and so just that process, even before you actually start working on a solution, is how I would say, like therapeutic for the organization
Yeah. Oh yeah,
to
no, that's exactly
flash out
right.
the problems.
Like people, a lot of times people don't actually think about their processes until they verbalize them. Like they know in their head what they do. They know that they've got this, this checklist of things to run through, or this is roughly what happens. But when they're verbalizing it, then they can, I mean, exactly like you're saying, it's therapeutic for them. They can see either like different ways that they could have built their own system, or they're recognizing things that they didn't realize needed to be part of the system. So yeah, that's a massively important part.
Very cool. So last question. You got the client, you did the discovery, you know what the solution should be and how to attack it. How do you measure the results? How do you know that you did a good job, that the client will be happy? And yeah,
Yeah, great question.
That's a great question. It's something that varies from client to client. I don't think there's any sort of like set metric that you can be like, oh, we did X, and so that was a good result, because that same result for a different client might not mean anything. So it is very much different client to client. I think a lot of it is just having good relationships with our clients. I think we have a very collaborative process. We're meeting with our clients on a regular basis to get their feedback and get their understanding. So this is maybe kind of a not the answer you were looking for, but I think it's just you just see it and you can just feel it when you're working with them, that like you can tell when someone's happy with what they're doing. Um, I think if I could point to one metric, it would be that their team actually wants to use it. It's something that like something I tell people all the time is, we can build you the most awesome system in the world, but if your team doesn't use it, it's worthless. So that's a very important aspect, and I think that's maybe the best indication that we've got built a good system, is that the team actually wants to use it, they understand it, that they are using it, and then that'll in turn, of course, make the client happy, that they don't just have a good system, but their team's actually using it, and it's providing the benefits that we intended it to.
The other thing that I'd add to that is that as a part of the discovery process, I mean, we're evaluating what their process is, we're evaluating what they've attempted or what they've built out so far. But we're also asking them like, what does their dream state look like? And so that's where, I mean, Zach always likes to say each client or each system's like a snowflake. Like, yeah, snow's all the same, but every single one looks different, and a lot of them have different ideas of what they'd like to see out of the system too. So we like to base our work not just on producing a system, but on actually getting them the results that they're looking for. So if they're looking to have an automated no-show process that triggers tasks for a handful of different teams, that becomes the goal and the objective. If they're looking to have just a basic system where they can keep track of things and make notes on every sales call that they have, that becomes the goal. So it's very unique client by client.
and do you, if they come in with, hey, here's what we want to do, but you guys have more experience with Monday, or maybe in general, you've seen way more companies than the company itself because they only know their story usually, or they're, like you said, they're snowflake, they're unique to them, but you've seen a bunch. Do you push back and saying like, listen, it's great that this is the goal. I love it, and I can implement it if you want, but maybe there's a better way. Maybe that's not the ideal way to approach this.
Yeah, usually we're not like
Yeah.
pushing back on the goal so much as like shedding light onto either a better way or a different way to make it possible. Because most of the time people aren't asking for anything that's crazy outrageous. Even when they are, I mean, we can usually figure it out. But most of the time they're looking for quality of life upgrades and just ways to make things simpler. And so they may have a preconceived idea in their head of how it should look. Um, we'll always redirect them to what's going to be most sustainable and most effective for their system. And again, ideally focused on their goals. There's lots of ways that we can make it happen.
Cool. And last thing, Zach, if I can just get maybe following up your point with measuring, you said bigger usage would be ideal of the platform. Do you have maybe a tip or two of how to get the actual people within the organization to use it more?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely training, I think, is the best thing you can do. Is just, I think the reason people don't use a system is because they don't understand it, or they aren't comfortable or confident using it. And so training, I think, is the best way to alleviate those adoption concerns. If you can take time to, like what we usually do is we'll provide training at the end of a kind of a development or an engagement with a client, and basically tell everyone that's going to be using it what we've built and how it works and what to do and what not to do, and give them that high level understanding. And then if individual people need a little bit more handholding, we'll meet one-on-one and make sure that they get up to speed, because sometimes the system's only as strong as the weakest link. So we want to make sure everyone's kind of at a similar level of understanding. And so I think that's in some ways almost the only way to alleviate those adoption concerns, is just to help people understand more what it is and how it works and how it's going to benefit them. I think that's another piece that's missing a lot, is the system's just something that's like, oh, the big man upstairs is pushing this down to us. And so I think it's like, no, we built this for you. Like, here's how it's going to make your day better. And here's how it's going to make your life easier. And like Tanner said earlier, here's how it's going to alleviate some of your mental workload. Here's how you're going to be able to focus a little bit more on other things. And so I think it's just explanation leads to understanding. And once they have that understanding, they actually want to use it. There is that desire there. And then you give them the understanding to be comfortable using it and confident. And then they go out and they love it. And then we also usually do like recorded videos and stuff for people, so that when they're onboarding new people in the future, they can get up to speed fairly quickly. But I think also, as long as the core team knows it, they're usually good about bringing new people into the fold when they when they join the team.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. This has been a wonderful chat, and I'm sure I think that the good thing about this kind of series is that, like we said, the people, even if they hear about Monday or they hear about Monday CRM, they don't necessarily think, oh, this is relevant to me. Just by highlighting this industry or that industry, I was like, oh, maybe we can, use a solution like that as well. So I appreciate all your input about the insurance stuff and in general. And, see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Danny. It's been awesome. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
thank you.
guys. Bye.
Yeah.